Welcome to Chapter 2 of Engaging with Mormons by Dr. Corey Miller. Today, Chapter 2, we're talking about the Mormon story, the Mormon scriptures. Story, scriptures, their doctrine a little bit. A lot of information coming today. So, first off, their history, their story. The Mormon story begins in 1820. This is a long time ago. America is very new, right? 1776, Declaration of Independence, 1790s, we're getting the Constitution, stuff like that figured out. 1820, really new, like before the Civil War, before people have really started like moving west across America that much. 14-year-old Joseph Smith, he's on top of it at 14. He's looking around. He's like, where should I go to church? I'm 14, time to make my own decisions. Where should I go to church? Should I go to the Congregational church? Should I go to the Methodist church? Where should I be going? He asks God. God gives him a vision, what the Mormons would call the first vision. 14 years old, he gets a vision that says, basically every Christian church that you'll see, all the Christians are mistaken. All the Christians are wrong enough that you basically start your own thing, right? Christianity itself is tainted. You need to start your own thing, Joseph. Even though you're 14, you need to start your own thing. So this is the first vision Joseph Smith gets, 1820. 10 years pass, he's 24, 25. He gets another vision. This time, an angel, big quotes on angel, an angel named Moroni. This is the Mormon story. An angel named Moroni comes to Joseph Smith, leads him to these golden plates. Joseph Smith sees the golden plates, copies down what's on them, gets it published in a book called the Book of Mormon. Joseph is the only one who gets to see these plates, right? Nobody else gets to see them. And the angel is like, well, these things are like too holy, too special. We can't really just like leave them here with humanity. So he's going to take them back, right? Everyone has to take Joseph's word on all of this. An angel came to him at night, led him to the middle of a forest in North New York, and said, like, hey, copy these down, but you can't have them, don't let anyone see them. So, 1830, Mormonism is like really started. They have a scripture. Joseph is out there getting followers, and it like gets going, right? People start following him. He's gaining popularity. Something that causes some issues is Mormons. They also call themselves Latter-day Saints, LDS Latter-day Saints. They are really on board with polygamy, which, if you don't know what that is, it's like one husband, multiple wives. Never the other direction, right? Never be one wife, multiple husbands. Always one husband, multiple wives. So they like Mormon men. They get to be 40, 45. Sometimes they like to get like another teenage wife, right? Their wife's getting a little old. Might add a teenage wife in there. And believe it or not, the like surrounding towns, the surrounding people, just the normal people who might go to church, might not, don't really like this, right? They don't want the 40-year-old man saying like, hey, I need a third wife. Could I have your like 14-year-old daughter? This is not exciting. This is not exciting to have around. So, believe it or not, the Mormons kind of get kicked out of town, and they have to start moving west. And so, 1830, Mormons really get started. Within 8 years, they're being kicked out of New York, Pennsylvania, where a lot of things get started. They're going to move west, right? They go to Missouri. People in Missouri aren't really thrilled about him either, right? This kind of leads to Joseph Smith getting arrested, thrown in prison. There's like violence and shooting. Eventually there is 1844, a prison riot happens. Joseph Smith gets killed. And really, this is like really significant for the Mormons because they started Northeast USA. They're having to move west. Keep getting kicked out. People don't like him. There's violence against him. Joseph Smith the founder of the religion, gets killed in prison. They have like a sense of like the world's against us, right? No one likes us. The world's against us. It unites them. It makes them feel like, wow, we really are right. Like we are right because no one likes us. Like if the world was like cheering us on, we should be skeptical. But since that basically no one wants us around, it probably means we're saying the truth. We're saying things they don't want to hear. Um, so Joseph Smith dies in 1844. A guy takes over named Brigham Young. Brigham Young, if you remember last week we talked about they have a big college named after him. Brigham Young is basically their version of Moses, leads them from Missouri to Salt Lake City, right? They get to Utah and they're like, Utah is the promised land. This is our place. And they just really start getting set up there, right? So 1847, early 1850s, they're getting set up, they're cooking, they're having lots of kids, they're living in Utah. Um, the last, I'd say, big date is 1890. They ban polygamy. They ban like having multiple wives. Um, this is basically just because everyone around them like hates it. Everybody else hates it. The U.S. government hates it. The U.S. military hates it, and the Mormons actually were like basically building their own small army to defend themselves on the right to have polygamy. So they cut that 1890, and a lot of things get smoother for them. So those are some big dates, right? 1820, 14-year-old Joseph Smith gets a vision from God saying, start your own thing. Christianity is like too tainted. 1830, they get, Joseph gets a vision from an angel named Moroni that leads them to some golden plates that become the Book of Mormon. About 17 years pass, they've set up in Salt Lake City, and still in Salt Lake City to this day. So, we're going to move on to the Mormon scriptures. They have four books that kind of encapsulate the scriptures. So, first one, Book of Mormon. Book of Mormon, we talked a little bit about it. Joseph gets a vision, finds golden plates. What's interesting in the Book of Mormon is Joseph was revealed to him that actually, while like Jesus is in Jerusalem living, while like the book of Acts is going with Peter and Paul and all that, there's actually a couple more tribes of Israel in America. Very far from the Middle East, where like the story of the Bible is happening. And in America, there's these two tribes, lost tribes of Israel, called the Nephites and the Lamanites. Nephites and Lamanites, they live here, and they aren't tainted in the same way that like the early Christian church gets tainted and ruined. So, Nephites, Lamanites live in America, actually follow Jesus. They get visited by Jesus at some point before Jesus goes back up to heaven. So, this raises a lot of questions. One is like, how did they get over here? Where did they live? We have no idea where they live. There's not even like a Mormon story of like, well, they lived in this area. They don't know, right? Nobody knows where they lived. There's not any, like literally any like archaeological evidence or something to back up these claims. He says they're different, right? They're different from like the Native Americans. They're not like a tribe that we would think of as Native Americans. They're not like the Aztecs or something in Mexico. They're not, right? They're Hebrew, right? They're from Israel. They're, yeah. So, anyways, there's these tribes of people. Joseph Smith finds their book. And that's a lot of what the Book of Mormon is about, right? There's these other two tribes of Israel that are untarnished, unruined by just what Christianity has become. So that's a lot of what the Book of Mormon is about. Another book they have is called The Doctrine and Covenants. The Doctrine and Covenants. This includes other stuff Joseph Smith wrote. It wasn't on the Golden Plates. it's just a bunch of stuff that Joseph Smith wrote that wasn't in the Book of Mormon. Basically, we read a quote from it last week about um, your burning bosom around. Like if you feel something strongly, it's like probably God telling you yes. So Book of Mormon, Doctrine and Covenants. Um, Other people get to add to it too. Whoever the prophet is at the time. Third book is called The Pearl of Great Price. The Pearl of Great Price is a collection of like little stories that is written, believe it or not, mostly by Abraham. Yes, Abraham from Genesis, Father Abraham, and Moses. So Abraham and Moses actually wrote Pearl of Great Price. It was lost to time until the Mormons rediscovered it, right? Uh, Moses lived maybe 1800 BC, and then the Mormons found it mid 1850s AD. I mean, huge gap of time. It was totally lost. Thank goodness the Mormons found it. It also includes like the official account of Joseph Smith's story, like when he had his vision, stuff like that. Fourth big book to them is the KJV Bible. They like the KJV Bible when it agrees with the first three books, right? So they have Book of Mormon, Doctrine and Covenants, Pearl of Great Price. Those are kind of distinctively Mormon. They like the KJV Bible when it agrees with the other stuff they have to say. Obviously, the KJV Bible has a lot of things that would contradict the Book of Mormon. So they don't like any other translations. Moving on, getting into more of like, what do they believe? What are their beliefs? They make two big assumptions that Dr. Miller wants us to understand. Like they have two big assumptions that kind of like shape how they look at Christianity and how Christianity looks at them. One is they believe that the church in the sense of like people who follow Jesus, the church, which would include like me and you, every Christian church all over the world that would like use the New Testament as their like this is their basis. This is what we have about Jesus. Is ruined. It's tainted, right? It's been damaged and twisted beyond repair. Basically, if you really want to follow God, you should abandon the Christian church and follow the Latter-day Saints, follow the Mormons. So they think like, right, so there's the book of Acts. You have the Gospels, talk about Jesus' life. The book of Acts talks about like Peter and Paul getting the church set up. They say basically as soon as Acts ends, the Christian church falls off a cliff, totally ruined. Nothing good is coming from it. And it's not until 1820 a guy gets it back on track. So first assumption, the church is like ruined beyond repair. Second big assumption is the Mormons have it right. The Latter-day Saints have it right. Joseph Smith restored things back to the way they should be. God revealed to Joseph Smith the way we're supposed to follow him. So I'm going to read a quote from Joseph that I think is insane, but he said it. He says, "I boast that no man ever did such work as I. The followers of Jesus ran away from him, but the Latter-day Saints never ran away from me." Right? He's saying, like, nobody on earth has done as good of things as me. Nobody on earth has loyal followers like me. Even Jesus had followers betray him. But me, when I set things right, everybody, like all my people, totally listen. Nobody on earth is like me. Now, if you're wondering, like, what would be like a Christian response, right? The Mormons say the Christian church is so messed up, you can't like go to it for truth about God anymore. What would like my response be? Well, from the Bible, basically, Jesus, Matthew 16:18. If you know the story, Jesus has the disciples. Who do people say I am? And people are like, well, some people think you're kind of like John the Baptist. Some people think you're like a prophet from the Old Testament. Jesus says, who do you guys think I am? Peter is like, you're the Messiah. You're the Christ. You're the Son of God. And Jesus is like, Good answer, Peter. Good answer. I'm gonna like build my church upon you, and the gates of hell. Jesus says, like, the gates of hell will not prevail against the church, right? Like, evil will not beat the church. Evil will not beat the church. God promises that, like, his church will last until he comes back. Mormons would say that verse isn't really true because we did basically immediately fall away.